This guy just got back from military service. His girlfriend's been waiting all this time to finally see him. But yeah, this dude's got his priorities straight. He barely even looks at her and just runs right past, straight to his room, because waiting for him there is his brand new gaming capsule. Before he joined the army, he was the #1 hardcore player in an insanely difficult game, one that eventually got shut down. But now, a new similar game just dropped and he just can't wait to check it out. Entering the game world, a character creation stage is set, so he quickly gives himself a badass mid-part hairstyle and submits his name as Kaiser. Next, he's moved into the apocalyptic battlefield as the tutorial stage. The VR graphics are insane, but first, a weapon is needed. Kaiser chooses a sword and meets Charlie, the knight captain, who takes the mercenary to confront the battle. The situation is grim, and Charlie fears that the worst calamity will descend if they don't stop the monsters. At once, they're met with arrows and warrior beasts, but before the knight can complete his sentence, Kaiser goes right in and demolishes every single creature in sight. Even as a newbie in this game, he's styling on these hyena-faced fuckers to send them back to the jungle. All this time, he was worried his skills must have degraded, but he only feels lighter on his feet. The knight captain glazes him, unlocking the favorability system in the game just like in the previous. The captain trusts him so strongly that he won't even care if our boy commits a crime at this point, earning him a title called the Affection Max. Next up, they gotta eliminate a dark sorcerer inside the gate, when suddenly more monsters creep up inside the castle. Charlie intends to hold the line and tells the hero to stop the summoner, entrusting the future to our boy. Even Kaiser is shocked that this knight is charging up to fight the mob, when instead, he's supposed to help you defeat the boss. His behavior is supposed to change based on a user's actions, but what's lurking on the opposite side of this door is truly sinister, so much so that even the system warns him. Kaiser immediately senses that this is a hidden piece, a deliberately concealed mechanism that requires sudden conditions to be met. Despite the danger, he's thrilled to confront what's ahead, and so the door opens, but instead of a dark sorcerer, there's a gargantuan creature awaiting before him. A beast shackled in chains, coaxed in crimson red aura, the iron-blooded demonic dragon meets its next victim, while Kaiser is terrified that he's going up against a legendary boss right at the start. This new game borrowed several things from the previous Demlock. One of those inspirations is the system that forms the ranking from normal, rare, heroic, and legendary, otherwise known as the tier system. The tier system also applies to every single boss monster on each level, and the spiciest ones of them are the unique monsters that actually have their own name designated to them. And just like you guys are guessing, this bastard with a scary-looking face is actually one of those dragons, a properly named boss. It concentrates a tremendous surge of power and roars out an insane pressure. This tremendous pressure stuns the player, invoking the system to let out several different system screens, notifying him of the dragon species type, as well as the nerf of his own physical abilities. Everything movement-related is down by 20 to 25%, and at this point our boy is just wondering what in the actual fuck the game developers were smoking when they put this thing in the game. The only good thing about this overgrown lizard is that it's a restrained boss monster. Even then, getting hit by a single attack from its paw is an instant trip to the Shadow Realm. Kaiser has already faced situations like these in Demlock. His adversaries were scary boss monsters, leaving him with only one choice at hand, the choice to kill or be killed. The badass player pulls out his sword and dodges the first strike, an attack that smashes the ground. He evades to his right before lunging back into the fight with a wide slash, dealing the dragon with some form of dragon. A second roar causes the monster to stun him again. Kaiser realizes that he's about to get stomped, so he counters the paw with another sword slash, only to get deflected several feet back from the impact. He takes a second to note how much damage he's dealt, and out of 1,000,000 life points, this man has only taken away 120. In other words, he needs to lock in or he'll end up on a plate. It's the worst possible difficulty considering the tutorial boss to begin with. Kaiser slashes the dragon once more, while remembering the insane comments he read on the forum about this dragon. Apparently not even the best players in this game managed to beat the creature, but our boy is so far styling on it with these slashes. More and more comments zip into his memory, while he uses his sword to deflect and strike the dragon down each time. Interestingly, the comments also took notice of how the demonic dragon species name was revealed. Most players thought it was some kind of bug. Others couldn't understand it at all. You see, someone had finally just defeated the tutorial boss monster for the first time. Impaling the dragon's claw, he agonizes the beast with continuous slashes. Kaiser literally goes Levi Ackerman Beyblade style on his ass and starts cutting the beast all over its body. And surely enough, the dragon is felled, naming him the first person to ever defeat a legendary boss in the tutorial. He'll gain a reward for it shortly. But for now, Kaiser is out here panting and completely spent, pissed off how stubborn this damn boss was. Extracting his sword, he focuses on the detail that he's the first player to slay the boss, even going further ahead than some of his own old friends. Even they thought that the beast was unbeatable in the tutorial phase after all. But for now, Kaiser is curious how his friends are holding up in the meantime. As per his reward, he gains the title of the First Slayer, and unlocks several traits for his gameplay, the first of which is the Weapon Master. The second is Hidden Dragon, the third is Slayer, the fourth Hero, fifth Overcome. All of their conditions have been met, unlocking an even more powerful trait called the Eye of Truth, and just from the first impression, Kaiser is shocked that he got so many of them in just a single fight. After all, in the average tutorial, only one trait is rewarded per player. Let's talk about traits for a second. They're one of the special systems in this game, varying from different types like Guide and Sword Master. Some of the higher level ones are only rewarded based on performance. Currently, Kaiser's stats have nearly doubled. His sword effects have also increased alongside a bunch of other juicy buffs. He eyes down the special trait, allowing him to see through things that are normally hidden. It's a vague effect, and sure, while Weapon Master and Hero Slayer are great traits by themselves, but they're not special. There will always be a few people out there in the player base who are going to possess such traits, but when it comes to a unique skill like the Eye of Truth, this thing is one of a kind. In other words, a man has hit the lottery with this pull. He got a bunch of different rewards and made a tremendous achievement. Even the title he gained allows him special effects to deal 10% higher damage to boss monsters. Right now, bro feels like he's living the rich life, especially when he usually had the crappiest luck in the previous game, just like me every time I open a case in Counter-Strike. Anyway, he eyeballs the door opening up. It's actually Captain Charlie looking bloody and bruised. The man is stunned to find the player, and asks if Kaiser actually managed to slay the monsters on his own. The captain is unable to fathom how this dude isn't even gravely injured, making him question what kind of god-tier player he even is. He chooses not to pursue his interest in Kaiser's background, and shares how heroes are typically born in the times of absolute chaos, so this man's very presence is a sign of hope in the world. This corny game dialogue is boring our boy to death, while this man gets on his knees to plead to the hero to offer him a chance to become his sword. Even the system explains that his intent is in fact real, and he will become Kaiser's subordinate because of it. Our boy is stupefied with the offer. Then again, Charlie has already died in the version of the game, so there won't be any special benefits. The tutorial specifically highlighted that this event would take place in the past, and thinking that it's just a lousy formality, Kaiser tells the captain to do whatever he wants. His words are interpreted as an acceptance, allowing him the captain's support. The man will now fall asleep peacefully, hoping for a better future alongside the hero. Kaiser takes notice of those words, while the system ushers that he'll soon return to the Pantheon. A grand portal appears just behind him. It's time to exit the tutorial stage, but before he leaves, the knight calls out to his master and asks for their next destination. Thinking about it for a moment, Kaiser responds that they'll be going wherever they're needed, because this world is a mess. The knight is exhilarated with this response, acting like bro just quoted Socrates or some shit. Anyway, the warping process commences with a 5-second timer. The captain hands him an artifact before the countdown wraps up, and in his final words, Charlie smiles and thanks his liege, hoping for salvation. Kaiser is immediately reverted back to the Pantheon after this sequence, welcoming him to a location where a player picks a god and initiates a path forward for their blessings. He admires the famous Pantheon structure, but more commonly, it can be considered your average gacha room. This same place is responsible for making several players weep and laugh depending on their luck, because the god of gacha governs their luck. Since a player can only serve a single god, their path is decided accordingly. Everything in this game is divided by tiers. Gods themselves have their own tiers: Fable, Hero, and Mythic. Fable gods are beings who became gods through tales spread among the ancient times. Hero gods are those who contributed to the well-being of humanity, forming their ascension. Finally, there are mythic gods, the ones who are responsible for entire mythologies, such as Zeus or Odin from each of their respective mythologies. As expected, myth gods are also the highest tier. Each floating card in this dimension contains a different god, so the system allows him to pick one. Knowing that our boy's luck is pretty dogshit, he doesn't really care much, but what surprises him the most is a glowing golden card among the rest. Activating his Eye of Truth, Kaiser suddenly realizes that he can use this ability to see what's behind any card. This is where this ability becomes truly broken, because he'll genuinely know what gacha pull is the best and simply use that one to his advantage. The same teammates who told him that he had the shittiest luck, they got under his feelings because it always made this man feel depressed. But now, things have changed. He can officially become a powerful ranker. Kaiser can't even contain his excitement and looks goofy as hell because bro knows he's already won. From now on, he decides that he'll only target the golden cards for his own benefit. He takes the first card, radiating with golden shimmer, having drawn the one-armed sword god Tyr. It's a mythic pull, so that's the exciting part. But at the same time, the system actually lets out a strange message. Apparently, Kaiser doesn't qualify to become Tyr's apostle yet, so he's urged to draw a card one more time. Bro is in tears, questioning why the hell he can't become an apostle in the first place. Even the myth god is shocked by this revelation. This is a strange occurrence. He's never heard of a player experiencing anything familiar. The word vessel sticks to his memory, because typically, every time a user is killed by the demon lord's spawn, the goddess delivers a revelation to them. The only problem is, Bro ended up killing the spawn, so the goddess never even arrived. Long story short, Bro is suffering from success because he killed the tutorial boss, therefore never receiving the goddess's blessing. Kaiser checks his system stats, and he doesn't find anything. The apostle section is completely missing, only branding him as a mere adventurer. This makes things tricky for him, making him contemplate on his next move. Bro basically pulled an Egyptian god card from Yu-Gi-Oh, but now he can't even summon it. Every single card is going to say the same, causing him to plummet down to his knees, a victim of his shitty luck once more. Our boy doesn't understand what his next move should be, because even if he deletes this character and restarts the game, it'll take a waiting period of 2 months. But then it happens. His eye glances to his right, noticing a peculiar card, one that is glowing with seething red energy. This card is unique in its essence, as he hasn't even heard of it before. After selecting the hidden card, he pulls the Forgotten Last Adventurer, Cassiar, meeting the qualifications to become this man's apostle. Kaiser's world glows red because he knows that this situation is special. It's a hidden piece no one knows about. After confirming, the system adds his class as the last adventurer to his stat sheet, allowing him help from humanity's final warrior. Scourging red energy spirals into his body, unlocking a unique ability to use skills regardless of any class restrictions, which is just freakishly overpowered. Even putting aside class differences, our boy can now spam anything from any class, so he can snatch all the useful skills he needs to build a specialized skill tree. Thanks to the Eye of Truth, he can even infer the kinds of skills he will get, and combining them with the Weapon Master trait will only make him more overpowered. Thanks to this man will become a powerful master, the jack of all trades with no weaknesses left. With the advancement process completed, the system intends to teleport him to Avtartel in 5 seconds. Kaiser is excited and finally has a reason to actually try in a game. He smiles as his future as a ranker has now reignited once more. In Avtartel, we arrive at the City of Beginnings, Arde. The players are sulking for pulling a shitty gacha, but some of the others are fine because combat classes aren't the only thing in this game. The environment is bustling with different players, but among these people, there are also the scouters, the men wearing those sexy suits. They're actually looking for talented members for their own guilds, but in truth, they're considered pretty annoying. One of the scouts is frustrated and wants to meet his quota of hiring members, or else his boss will kick his ass. But interestingly, they find a dude in the distance they might like. From a glance, they think the kid has gone crazy, and that there's no point in hiring him at all. While they're moving past him, our boy is actually admiring a new item he just equipped, the Necklace of Blood and Covenant. It's a hero-grade item with several different options to use. Once again, this man feels like he's being showered in luck. The feeling is all too good. A sudden notification pops up. It's a goblin cleanup quest, the first mission he has to deal with as a player. But not just him, the rest are also told to defeat 40 goblins as a hunting quest. Everyone is pumped, while a mustache-wearing midget called Hunter Dante leaves the job to the players to slay the goblins for him. Immediately, the first instinct of these players is to call out for members to form parties. Kaiser notices this detail. In fact, one group actually ends up approaching him too, expressing their desire to grind to level 12. There's an archer and a mage, and they seem pretty chill from their looks. Typically, hunting is a lot easier when you're doing it as a party. Any additional bonus experience is also helpful, making the concept of partying in this game necessary. With that mindset, Kaiser agrees to join them, creating the Shield Best Party under the leader's name. One of the players asks if he's a fan of Kaiser for using his name, the same guy who used to be rank number 1 in Demrock in the old days. They think he's some kind of peak fan of the ranker for naming himself too, not knowing that our boy is actually the real deal. This is like asking Michael Jackson if he's Michael Jackson. Anyway, the party is pumped to hurry up and grind to level 12. Even our boy is happy to do as much. We spawn right into their mission, where Shieldbest is slamming a goblin to stun the creature, and after the first successful hit, he tells everyone else to attack as well. The archer and the mage release each of their respective projectile shots, zooming past their friend and killing the green goblin instantly. With the first creature downed, the others are pretty scared, but nonetheless still manage to charge ahead like a bunch of idiots. They exert pressure on Shieldbest's defense, while his friends are worried about him taking the heavy hits. The team leader urges them to quickly attack the goblins while he's holding them off, except there's one main problem. They're both on cooldown mode. Since they're busy, our boy cuts into the fight from above. At that exact moment, this man deals a wide swing, obliterating the goblin with a single hit. His maneuverability is so insane that even the others are shocked. Kaiser plants his feet on the ground before launching right back into the herd like a missile. He speed blitzes several goblins, killing them all at once as he earns the praise of his comrades. Even the team leader has to stop for a moment and thank him for his amazing performance, believing that they'll be able to clear the quest pretty fast. One small problem, just up front, an entire group of goblins has arrived. These little green-balled bastards are snickering and waiting for a chance to attack, while the team leader urges them to fall back and retreat. Except our boy doesn't know what that means, because he's ready to catch all the smoke, so he lunges in. The goblins are ecstatic, believing that they're getting a free victim, while this man lunges up top, glaring at them like the incarnation of a devil. At first it seems calm, but then a literal explosion erupts from the aftermath of the battle. This takes us back to a conversation Kaiser once shared with his old friend, who questioned why he always ran into the hardest fights ever. Our boy didn't understand the meaning of being reckless, while his friends explained that he always dove first to face any boss fight or strong monsters. The top ranker simply responded by saying he still defeated each threat, ignoring the danger of it all. Recklessness is a concept foreign to this man, because though it seems dangerous to others, severing their will to take on the fight with such risk, Kaiser is the opposite. You see, this man isn't in danger, he is the danger, and he's not going to sugarcoat himself to let you know that. He's always fought methodically, knowing that in every encounter, he would win. The explosion just now happened because of a skill called Smash that he used. Kaiser lands critical hits on green goblins, and not the Spider-Man kind. With only one threatening dark goblin left, Kaiser repels all the way back to target the main threat, knowing that it's ideal to take out the ranged opponents first. In his dive, he slashes several armed warriors in the way. The dark goblin releases its poisonous projectile to try and slow him down, but this man instantly activates his overcome trait, to overcome his limits. This sharpens his senses, allowing this man to deflect properly, stunning the goblin with his reflexes. And then he goes on to end its life in an instant, before facing another one up front and dealing with that one as well. Kaiser blocks the hit and determinably delivers a beautiful slash, cutting the monster down. The effect of the Weapon Master trait activates, allowing him to use the skill called Exploit Weakness. Our boy is satisfied with his progress, grabbing the short dagger and flinging it right in the goblin's eye, dealing a critical hit. The surrounding goblins are ganging up on him. One of them attacks him with a bat. Kaiser smacks it away, allowing him access to use the weapon's special ability too. Taking the same bat, this man goes Asian parent mode on his opponents. First he chucks the dagger up the monster's throat, before whacking its face with a bat, reducing it to paste. The proficiency of his weapon increases in the process, shooting the level upward. So far, things are going pretty well for them. He did desire to learn skills without any restrictions, but he had no idea that he could also use them directly into the fight immediately. Despite being exhausted, he's also thrilled to reach this level. But while he's excited, those watching him are literally questioning their eyes. The team leader can't fathom how a single player managed to do what not even an experienced party could against a pack of goblins. This man is on a different level for taking on a threat like that, and the name Kaiser is starting to make a lot of sense. Shieldbest genuinely wonders if this dude is the same man from the old days, but he doesn't want to accept that ridiculous reality. After all, the same genius ranker ended up disappearing from the world for 2 whole years. It can't be that the same guy appeared at his party, right? That's what he thinks. But that begs the question, who in the world is this man in the first place? Kaiser is currently looking like a yandere, bros horny for his ranked future. Shieldbest thinks the guy is genuinely crazy at this point. Back to his senses, Kaiser sees the fading corpse, and realizes that both the dagger and the bat will disappear because they're part of the enemy. Still, he managed to do a lot by surpassing weapon restrictions, so he's happy. Popping open the status window, he checks his level and stats. From a single hunt, he increases by 3 stages, which is good enough. Even though he's got access to all weapons, Kaiser loves his sword, and intends to invest his points into strength and agility. The other stats are safely covered through his item and trait buffs, so he's chill. In the middle of his celebration, his new friends come along to glaze him for being so good at the game. Shieldbest glazes him as the real Kaiser, while the other guys can't figure out a reason why the legendary ranker would try to play this game again. Still, his skills are the best of the best, so it's not impossible for them to believe the truth. While they're arguing, all Kaiser can internalize is how he's the real Kaiser in the first place. Out of curiosity, they ask if he pulled some kind of mythic god for his damage, to which he politely responds by saying that it's thanks to his traits and titles. They're stunned to hear that he's gotten pretty good stuff, and wonder if he intends to become a proper ranker. A moment of silence ensues between the group, with Shield Best suggesting they hunt some more with their stamina replenished. The other dudes are ready to rumble, and Kaiser doesn't mind either. In fact, his party has only become more confident and dependent on his contribution. But from their talks, all he could remember is his previous party's words. They all wanted to let him handle the raid, but he remembers this experience positively and wonders what his old friends are up to. Suddenly, an urgent quest pops up in the form of a mini boss monster quest. The party is expected to slay the mutant goblin with a no time limit setting, taking Kaiser by surprise. The story then shifts to the cave entrance where the whole party is standing together. They have finally arrived to deal with the mutant goblin and complete the quest. The archer and the mage keep complaining about how anxious they are feeling right now, even though all of them have already pushed themselves hard and leveled up to 9 on their way here without holding back. Our hero, however, understands exactly where this anxiety is coming from, since the dungeon they are about to enter is quite infamous and widely known as the Newbie Slayer among players. Kaiser recalls reading the reviews where people kept talking and panicking about how to clear this dungeon without ending up dying again and again during every attempt. Moreover, it is almost guaranteed that someone is going to die on their first try. Because of this, the dungeon has picked up a few nicknames, including Arda's Tomb among the players. As the team finally steps inside, Kaiser continues thinking about the extreme difficulty of this place and how it requires very specific patterns of teamwork if someone wants to clear it properly. As the team moves deeper inside, they keep complaining about how a place like this should be banned for good and removed from the game. After listening to all these negative comments, the leader Shield Best tries to motivate his team by reminding them that they have no choice but to defeat this dungeon if they want to earn a ticket to take part in higher level raids. Just like how companies prefer experienced interns over complete rookies, the guilds in this game follow the exact same principle. And because of that clearing, this dungeon becomes mandatory if they want any real chance to join a proper guild or party. The game has even set strict protocols in place to make sure no one can cheat the system, and every player's full progress gets recorded in some weirdo book of adventures, which is why no one can simply lie about clearing the dungeon without actually doing it themselves. Kaiser understands that for now he has to make sure he clears this dungeon if he wants a chance to join a boss raid in the next city. The boss inside this dungeon is Ard, and while it is possible to move forward without defeating him here, the boss in the next city will not allow anyone to proceed unless it gets taken out. Because of that, Kaiser knows he has to prove that he is capable enough to join a proper guild. The party soon reaches the door, and behind it the infamous Ard is waiting for them. The game panel clearly shows that no more than 4 people are allowed to enter, and all of them must be under level 10, which matches their team exactly. Kaiser asks the group if everyone is ready, and Yubink immediately says that she is fully prepared and has already gone through the strategy more than 10 times. The leader Shield Best activates the quest, and everyone accepts it without hesitation. The gate opens, and they step into the habitat of the goblin warrior Arda, while Kaiser prepares himself to get back into action since it has been a long time since he last showed what he could do. Right then, the boss monster appears with a twisted grin on his face. He carries a massive 20,000 hit points and lets out a growl as he prepares to crush the group of adventurers who dared to wake him up. Yubink gets shaken by how real everything feels, and nervously asks if this is still just a game, or if she somehow got isekai'd into another world. Kaiser shouts at everyone to stay sharp as the boss charges straight at them. Shield Best glances at Kaiser and thinks that no matter how strong he might be, he cannot protect all of them at once. He quickly steps forward, raises his shield, and tells the others to move back as he braces himself to take the full impact of the boss's charge. He manages to stun the boss and tells everyone to take the chance and hit it with everything they have. Ard the Goblin, however, quickly recovers and comes in for a second attack. It swings its sword, but the tank manages to block it again with his shield while activating his protection trait, which increases his defense and vitality as long as his party members stay behind him. Kaiser is seen flying around while casually slicing through the goblin again and again. The goblin screams and pulls back. Shield Best looks at the monster with a smile, realizing that they might get through phase 1 without trouble. Just then, Aim for the Head shouts, telling him that the pattern is incoming. The shield cannot believe what he hears because as far as he remembers, they would have to lower the goblin's hit points to half to trigger that. However, he gets startled when he looks at the monster and realizes that the condition has already been met. Just then, our hero jumps in once again and slices through the goblin's hand. He keeps a grin on his face and says that he has already terminated the pattern. The story then shifts to the past where Kaiser is getting interviewed. The lady asks him about the secret behind his party's success since it has cleared bosses and dungeons that were very difficult to handle. Our hero replies casually that all they do is stick to what they are best at. The interviewer recalls the party composition, which has 4 roles including tank, DPS, healer, and a support. She mentions that Kaiser's party seems to be missing the tank role and asks how raids are even possible without it. Kaiser admits that tanks are an important part of any party, especially when it comes to interrupting the boss's pattern. However, he then reveals and shocks the lady by saying that he is the one who takes care of that role himself. Shifting back to the present, Ard is left screaming in pain after its pattern gets interrupted and its arm is slashed. Shieldbest cannot believe what he is seeing because from what he knows, even tanks would struggle to interrupt a boss's pattern. Here, the team's attacker is pulling off a miracle, doing what he can't with a single strike. The goblin Ard comes in to attack again, but once more gets cut down by Kaiser with ease. The archer gets excited and points out that the team's attacker is aiming only for the vital points. By this point, Kaiser has already interrupted another pattern, and the boss is now left with just under a quarter of its HP. Shieldbest shouts at the team to prepare for the upcoming Phase 2. The mage and the archer get ready as they are not willing to let Kaiser take all the spotlight. The mutant goblin warrior then manifests its trait and enters a berserk state. Our boy is already expecting this and recalls how every boss carries a different ability. He remembers that Arda the Goblin has been given 2 traits by the game, known as the 007 Bang. Its first trait applies a debuff to the challenger's team if it gets hit by physical damage 4 or more times. The second trait allows it to reflect magic damage if that is used 3 or more times. Apart from this, the berserk effect also reduces their speed by 4%. The archer complains about the debuff and argues that this boss keeps getting more broken every passing second, even though it has barely done anything in this fight. Kaiser, on the other hand, remains unaffected by any of these debuffs. His trait allows him to ignore the berserk effect completely, which gets him excited. While Shieldbest is giving orders to avoid attacks and focus on dodging for now, Kaiser has a different plan. He reveals his intention to simply cut down the monster and charges forward. Ard slashes as if he actually stands a chance, and as expected, the MC is far too powerful and cuts through the monster, making it look way too easy. Meanwhile, the archer and the mage still cannot understand why Kaiser is not affected by the debuffs. Even Shieldbest has given up on any idea of losing this battle. He looks at Kaiser in surprise and still wonders if he is truly the Kaiser from the legends. At this point, all 3 of them are just watching as Kaiser keeps swinging his sword at the goblin. Amidst the battle, our hero reaches level 10 and his swordsmanship proficiency rises to level 7. Because of this, his damage with a sword increases by 7%. He charges toward the goblin for a finishing move and appears before it instantly, cutting it down through the middle. With this, the game system informs them that the mutant goblin warrior Arde has been defeated and the dungeon is cleared. Instead of celebrating, Shieldbest remains lost in his thoughts, trying to figure out if the person in front of them is actually the legendary Kaiser himself, and not just a cheap copy. Hearing this, the other 2 are also left stunned. The game system then tells them that they have broken the record and taken first place in the time limit rankings. The rewards are given based on contribution, and as expected, Kaiser takes the first place in the team. He receives a red leader top and a bunch of other goblin items which he probably will not use. Furthermore, he also acquires the title of the Throne of the Time Attack, which increases his speed stat by 10%. Kaiser stands there proudly as he gets to shine once again. Looking at their system screens, everyone gets super excited by the god tier drops they just pulled. The archer and the mage start singing our hero's praises, but he simply smiles in return. Shieldbest then speaks up with his tail between his legs, asking him to look at the name on the ranking list. Since the tank was the leader, his name is showing up on the screen. He apologizes for not thinking of changing the name before they entered the dungeon. Kaiser catches on and realizes that having your name in the ranking, especially first place, must be a really big deal. There is even a chance to get accepted into the top 10 guilds with such an achievement. Even though this is a beginner-level dungeon, they still manage to take the spotlight away from the top player, Annihilation. Coming back to the party, the tank apologizes again and offers to pay money to make up for that mistake. Our boy just smiles and instantly forgives them, as these sorts of things happen. The computer automatically registers the leader's name when entering the dungeon, and he never expected to get first place either. On the inside, he is glad since being in the spotlight can be pretty tough. After all, the most important thing here is the rewards, the warrior set. Even though the grade can vary, it is one of the best items you can get in this place. Since he literally got pieces of every grade, our hero thinks there is no way the ranking name can ruin his mood. Seeing the twisted smile on Kaiser's face, the tank asks if this is really alright. Our hero just brushes it off, telling them to take a chill pill. The party then starts sucking up to him for being so selfless, only for the system to announce that the dungeon is about to close. Shield Best mentions to his archer teammate that he originally thought the rumors about Kaiser were extremely exaggerated. However, now he completely understands what sort of great person he truly is. Our boy notices that the group is still standing there and asks if they want to stay in the dungeon. That snaps them out of their thoughts, and they instantly book it toward the portal. Coming back to the village, they make their way to the alchemist in the back alley. The squad then enters the shop, only to be blown away by how different the place looks from the inside. Kaiser notices the hooded figure standing behind the counter, and figures that it must be Kalda the alchemist. Seeing his rotten mood, everyone starts having second thoughts about the quest. The alchemist starts roasting them, asking if they have given up, and reminds them that he still needs a lot of blood for his research. Our boy then slams the vial of blood on the counter, which catches him completely by surprise since it hasn't even been 40 minutes yet. Seeing the confident look on the group, the alchemist starts blushing like a little girl. The system informs Kaiser that he has received some gold and a silver ring made by the guy. With that, the quest gets completed, and they can now all move to the main continent. Everyone starts celebrating like crazy, as if they just won the lottery or something. The screen then pops a new notification that Kaiser also got a special gift from Kalda. He stores it for later and instead opens the low-grade skill ticket reward. The screen starts emitting a weird light, and cards float out, filling the room. Using his Eye of Truth ability, he realizes that most of the cards are just ordinary as hell. He then views the Charging Slash ability, the same one he used back in Demrock. Kaiser recalls that the ticket lottery gives a random ability all the way from common to legendary. Just then, a message pops up that the system is going to shut down in a few seconds. That catches our hero completely off guard. He totally forgot about the time limit that prevents the user from getting addicted to the game or starving himself to death. Kaiser cannot believe that 10 hours have already passed. Looking at the cards, he quickly sorts through them while the system begins the countdown. Just as he presses the screen, the system then forces the game to shut down. Back in real life, he takes a few moments to process what just happened, then starts screaming in frustration like someone kicked him between the legs. The next morning, he calms down after getting his beauty sleep and decides to hop back into the machine. As soon as he gets online, the first thing he does is open the system, recalling that he saw a golden light. His mood drops when he sees that the card wasn't a legendary grade, and figures that his luck is dying down. His mind does a double take when he sees that he instead got the backstab ability. This overpowered skill is the reason why a lot of ranged fighters avoid throwing hands with assassins. No matter how hard they try to keep a distance, this skill allows the assassin to close the gap in a flash. Kaiser starts smiling like a madman when he realizes that he got the skill despite not being an assassin. If he gets a few more overpowered skills like this, he would become completely unstoppable. Just then, a wannabe hotshot walks by, laying it on thick to his girlfriend that he is a pro player. When the two notice the crazy look on our boy's face, the couple freaks out and does a complete 180. Finally snapping out of Fantasyland, Kaiser decides to put on the equipment he got. Decked out with a new drip, he decides that it is time to head to the main continent. As the portal appears, he recalls that he didn't even say goodbye to the squad he was with. Although he was starting to feel at home with them, he figures that this must be fate, and finally steps through. Dropping into lore mode, all the players who manage to make it out of Ard are happy to step into the mainland. Unlike that starter place, which is divided into country-based servers, people from all over the world can meet here. The first starting point in the journey is the city of Raven. As our boy makes his way into the city, a couple of knights ride through the gate, dragging a criminal with them. The system informs him that new places and jobs have now opened up, but his beginner protection has ended. Seeing the welcome messages, Kaiser realizes that the game is top tier for a reason. A friendly Fatso NPC appears and offers him a free beer on the house. Others also pop up, offering him free stuff, which makes him get lost in thought. He then manages to snap out of it, telling himself that he can do all this stuff later. Stretching his arms, he thinks of where he should go hunting now. Sometime later, he is busy mowing down monsters outside the city. The warrior set gives him extra damage against goblins as well as broken power buffs. Using his rushing slash ability, he zips past the monsters, turning them into mincemeat. What's more, with each monster he defeats, his greatsword gets more powerful. The weapon was already overpowered to begin with, but the fact that it keeps growing stronger makes him super excited. Seeing his ability screen, he realizes that the next level isn't far off either. Just then, his Eye of Truth ability activates and he spots a person hidden among the bushes. The hidden thug starts drooling when he sees the warrior set and thinks that he has hit a jackpot. Not being able to wait any longer, he rushes ahead with his knife, only for Kaiser to easily block his attack. The disguise finally fades away and our boy stares him down with a menacing aura. The man jumps back in fear and yells at his goons to attack already. An archer suddenly shoots arrows at Kaiser, but they get deflected like paper balls. Another guy with an axe charges at him, only to get his attack parried like a pathetic commoner. Our boy then slices through the thug's body, while the other two realize that they messed with the wrong guy. The cowardly assassin instantly runs away but doesn't get far as Kaiser pops out in front of him, asking if the little baby lost his parents. Kaiser recalls how these player killers used to exist in the previous game as well. Mostly all the games would have them. Even the King of Games Sword Art Online also used to have these bunch of lowly cowards who would steal from others, or just do it for the sake of gaining pleasure from murdering them. This game GoS also has them, and our pro gamer knows them by the name of Noob Hunters instead of Player Killers, PK. The story shifts back to the game, where our hero is standing in front of the chicken who has nearly wet his pants. The noob PK is confused as to how an apparently ordinary swordsman has used a backstab which should belong to an assassin, but before he could figure out the mystery behind this, the assassin boy gets killed himself. Kaiser also kills his comrades who have silly names like Not Your Mom. Instead of considering Kaiser as a criminal and giving him some sort of penalty, the game's AI figures out that what he did was just in self-defense. However, after dealing with these noob killers, our hero is reminded of the kind friends he got back in Arda. He then stores his items to avoid getting more attention from other player killers and heads to complete other quests. In just no time, the guy manages to complete a bunch of quests and levels up to 17, unlocking the West Gate for him. Kaiser being Kaiser immediately gets through the gate and enters the forest west of Raven. On his way here, he is even warned by the NPCs about how dangerous this hunting ground is, and that he must try to run away if he finds himself near it. Our hero realizes that the suffocating atmosphere here comes from the dense woods and the giant insects swarming around, along with goblins scheming and planning ambushes. From what he has learned, this place is freakishly difficult to handle, and players have made a rule for themselves that anyone entering should at least come with a party of 3. Because of this, the area in front of the West Gate is crowded with people looking for others to complete their team, so they might stand a chance of surviving in this scary place. While some are searching for attackers and tanks, others are hunting for healers. Healers, however, are a class most people think is best avoided, considering how boring and painfully difficult it is to level them up. When Kaiser is going solo, people mock him for being a broke loser who couldn't get anyone to party with him, while our hero simply sighs in quiet excitement. There, in the dense woods, he effortlessly moves forward, slashing through goblins who are caught off guard by surprise attacks themselves. One goblin thinks it's his lucky day and jumps in but misses entirely and gets smashed on the spot. Another archer goblin takes aim at the poor boy, but Kaiser outsmarts him and throws his greatsword, severing the upper part of its body. When he loses his sword and therefore the effects from it, the goblins think they finally stand a chance. The legendary boy, however, has backup as he quickly equips an axe and uses backstabs to take them down with downward strikes. He quickly tackles the goblins one by one and even raises his axe mastery by a level. After he completes the goblin quest, he senses something approaching from behind and finds a huge centipede moving in to fill its belly. The birds fly from the trees because of the sudden commotion. Kaiser leaps into the air with the first centipede close behind him. He lets out a fierce war cry and swings his whole body to deliver a massive blow. The centipede takes heavy damage and is sent flying, but in the very next moment it springs back at him, clearly determined to take revenge. Our hero reacts instantly and manages to block the attack. At the same time, he manifests a battle axe in his left hand, while noticing how ugly the creature looks up close. A heavy swing from the axe slices off the centipede's mandibles, and 2 more strikes from his sword are enough to finally grant him victory over the monster. Kaiser levels up, and his stats screen shows that he has gone up by 2 levels. He mutters to himself that leveling up is no child's play, but so far it is going quite well for him. Having cleared most of the available quests, his attention diverts to a normal one among the West Gate quests. It instructs him to find and retrieve a girl's lost pendant, so he gears up since he already knows its location. On his way there, he is met by other adventurers, all standing in line and waiting their turn. Kaiser immediately recognizes a tree as the place where the pendant is supposed to spawn. Meanwhile, in the background, people grumble and mumble about how long the line is and how much they have to wait. Among the whispers, he overhears a conversation about the execution order on the griefers. The men argue that the assassin probably deserved it for acting recklessly, and one of them even mentions that the guy goes by the name Kaiser. Multiple alarms go off in our hero's head as he realizes something is off. The men continue talking, saying that our hero apparently used backstabbing, which doesn't quite make sense to them. He thinks that nobody should believe such a far-fetched theory, but the conversation is enough to alert him to keep a low profile for a while. He understands that a swordsman using assassin skills is unheard of, and having 6 traits is even rarer. The guilds would never just sit quietly and would try to recruit him the moment they learn about him. Still, there are the psychopaths who would rather kill such a rare talent, especially if they are top guild members from Demrock. Their only rule seems to be to acquire or destroy what is otherwise unreachable. He plucks the pendant from its spot in the tree and reminds himself that it is still too early for any hasty moves. Back near the west gate, Camilla beams with happiness as she receives her pendant and thanks our hero for doing her the favor. Kaiser receives 1 gold, some XP points, and a gift from Camilla. At the same time, he levels up to level 20 and earns a skill draw ticket as a reward. Camilla mentions that the pendant is her most treasured item, yet she is willing to give it to Kaiser as a reward. Our hero thanks her and tells her not to lose it again. Camilla thanks him once more, and as she smiles, our hero's max affinity ability activates, causing Camilla's affinity to sharply rise. The sudden spike surprises even Kaiser as he walks off, and he rationalizes that it must have gone up so much because she is a young girl. Without missing a beat, he immediately thinks about tackling the next quest. It requires him to subjugate the dungeon outside the west gate, and since the reward is a draw ticket, he absolutely cannot miss the opportunity. At the same time, he remembers there are 2 dungeons outside the west gate. One houses the goblin chiefs, and the other is an ant nest. Considering his warrior stats, he decides to go after the goblins, but even so, both dungeons require a party to begin the quest. Our hero knows he cannot reveal his true abilities just yet, so he approaches the dungeon in an unassuming way. All of the adventurers scramble around, desperately searching for a level 20 mage left and right. Meanwhile, the item collectors and weapon repairers add their own shouts to the chaos, making the whole area as busy as a crowded marketplace. Our hero is surprised to see production-type players gathered at the dungeon, noticing that thieves and headless optimists are the first to get rejected. At the same time, people swarm around mages like ants, begging them to join their parties. Our hero remembers that the hierarchy in the game is dictated by the abilities each character has against the mob bosses, which makes mages practically deities in this dungeon. It also hits him that swordsmen are essentially useless here, but just then someone calls out to him from behind. He turns to see a player inviting him to join their crew if he is still alone. Kaiser checks if they know he is just a lowly swordsman, and they admit that they know all too well. They explain that they are simply raiding the dungeon for a quest, and just need another random member with them. Our hero grows suspicious but decides to play along. He accepts, and the player sends him an invitation through the system screen. Just by glancing at their stats, it becomes clear to him that these people know exactly who he is. Flashing back to a few minutes earlier, they spotted him sticking out like a sore thumb in the crowd, probably thanks to that flashy red warrior armor set. No rookies usually walk around geared like that, which gave Bastard Sword a sinister idea matching his username. The party dives straight into the Goblin Chief's high difficulty lair, relying on a couple of torches to barely light the dark tunnels. The dive kicks off when they drop the first red Goblin Scout without much effort. A system notification pops up, informing them that the chief is now aware of their presence. The party leader and tank act macho, flexing their high levels. Our boy genuinely feels impressed by their clean teamwork and heavy damage output. Soon after, the Goblin Chief sends reinforcements to handle the uninvited guests. Out of nowhere, dozens of glowing red eyes blink open in the darkness, and the walls tremble as a stampede barrels toward them. Acting generous all of a sudden, the squad asks Kaiser if he wants to take the wave himself. They promise to step in if anything goes south. The mage girl chimes in, saying it is the perfect chance to test their synergy. She swears she will absolutely cover him if he's in trouble. Kaiser sees red flags everywhere, but he isn't a coward who backs down. He charges straight into the goblin horde with a clean charging slash, carving through red necks like he is slicing practice dummies. The leader's suspicion is confirmed. Kaiser's seasoned combat instincts scream veteran, meaning he is the guy they have been hunting. The sleazy leader tells his tank to evaluate the newcomer's skill set, to which the man calmly replies that they are definitely not second-rate. It is obvious Kaiser has sharp dodging instincts and targets vital points pretty fast for a great sword wielder. Even so, the guy says something about him doesn't add up. He adds that the newcomer still is not at a level where a seasoned pro like Assassin Boy 6'9" should have lost. Kaiser is quick for someone at his rank, sure, but assassins are a different breed entirely. With stealth and poison in their toolkit, it is one of the most broken PvP classes, even winning 3 versus 1 fights without breaking a sweat. Tired of the overanalyzing, the mage girl tells them to relax already. Their end goal is to throw him in a ditch, so the details barely matter. Hearing that, the leader gives Tank the green light to quietly set the plan in motion. The 3 slowly close in from behind, pretending they are just coming to provide backup. Meanwhile, Kaiser stays fully aware of everything around him, even while chopping goblins like firewood. His teammates shower him with compliments, claiming they are confident he could solo the entire dungeon with that swordsmanship. Our boy flashes them a wide grin and casually replies that they are not too bad themselves. The tank keeps him buttering him up, telling the leader they have found themselves a hardcore gamer worthy of respect. Still, Kaiser is not the type to get drunk on cheap flatter. In his mind, there were only 2 reasons they tossed him into a monster swarm like that. They could have been using him as bait, planning to grab his loot after he died. But so far, it seems they are not ready to pull the trigger. The leader suggests they should keep moving forward, not out of kindness, but because he is waiting for the perfect moment when our hero will be easiest to erase. The party clears wave after wave of monsters, yet the mage girl somehow keeps missing her shots at him. The leader snaps at her terrible aim, and she shamelessly blames the goblins for getting in her line of fire. The 3 idiots are already out of breath, thinking Kaiser is insanely lucky. Meanwhile, he is genuinely shocked at how bad her aim actually is, considering he practically hands her clean openings. They have reached the boss room now, meaning this is their final opportunity. The massive gate creaks open slowly and a heavy aura spills out. 2 elite goblin soldiers step forward as the chief's personal security detail, ready to crush the intruders. The leader orders Kaiser to handle them while they take care of something important. To their shock, he is suddenly nowhere in sight, and the elite soldiers start marching toward them instead. The tank shouts that the slippery little rat must have figured out their entire scheme. Pointing ahead, the mage girl screams at the dumb tank to focus on the enemies instead of panicking. Hearing that, the guys desperately hold back the goblins and yell at her to incinerate them before they get flattened. The girl begins casting fireball, but abruptly stops when a massive boulder comes flying straight at her face. She barely dodges to the side. The little girl freezes when she sees the absolute unit who threw it. The goblin chief with diabetes and a double chin to rival Donald Trump steps out with a roar that shakes the room. The tank turns back to her, asking how long she plans to stand there daydreaming, but the mage girl looks pale like she has just saw the angel of death. Kaiser reveals himself again, politely asking his friends if they happen to be close friends of Assassin Boy. Confused and cornered, she blurts out the truth but reasons with him to at least help clear the dungeon before they settle anything personal. After all, clearing a dungeon like this is nearly impossible without a full party. Kaiser nods and admits that, logically speaking, she is absolutely correct. She lets out a small breath of relief, thinking he has come to his senses. That is, until a 2-foot blade plows into her chest where her heart used to be. With that statement, Kaiser makes it clear he has zero interest in the logical option. While the other 2 are still busy wrestling with the elite goblin soldiers, Kaiser casually receives a reward notification for eliminating an evildoer. He is pleased to see his setup paid off perfectly. The moment the elite soldiers appeared, he used backstab on a nearby corpse. The assassin skill allowed him to vanish in plain sight without anyone noticing. After that, he simply hid and waited for the trio to get distracted in battle. The leader stares at him in disbelief, questioning whether he has completely lost his mind. Surely he doesn't seriously plan to drag them down with him. Kaiser calmly tells him to guess his personal motto, irritating the guy who is not in the mood for riddles. He then pulls out a dagger he recently picked up and spells it out clearly. He does not work with backstabbing parasites. The leader's jaw drops when he recognizes the dagger. It belonged to Assassin Boy 6'9", but now it's in Kaiser's hands. Our boy smirks wide, amused to see that the guy recognizes his friend's equipment well. More than shock, though, the leader is confused why a swordsman is equipping a dagger. A dagger in a greatsword user's hand is about as useful as a monkey with a screwdriver. Then the leader demands to know how Kaiser plans to solo the dungeon, after eliminating the only 2 people who could have helped him. The Goblin Chief's resistance to physical damage is absurdly high. There is no way he can chip it down with that tiny dagger, no matter how long he swings. Kaiser, however, simply shrugs and says his strategy is actually very simple. Status effects like bleed do not count as physical damage, and that is his golden ticket to an easy win. The leader starts screaming at him, saying there is no way bleed alone can solo a high-rank boss. Grinning like he knows something they do not, Kaiser calmly explains he is not using some cheap bleed effect. The next second, the leader watches him vanish, only to reappear a few feet ahead. Before he can even process what happened, his health plummets. The stat gap between him and Kaiser is overwhelmingly large. The bigger the stat difference, the stronger his bleed becomes. Both the elite soldier and the party leader suddenly start coughing up alarming amounts of blood. Choking and furious, the leader curses the dumb game design that punishes him simply for having higher stats. It's not like the level gap is that big either. They are only 4 levels apart. For the bleed to hit this hard, there has to be another hidden factor. Kaiser watches the aftermath of the skill he pulled off with quiet satisfaction. On paper, it was just an average level 20 gacha skill. What he did not expect, however, was the rare condition attached to it, one that allows the effect to stack. Stacking status effects is not exactly common in most games. But Kaiser just happens to have the perfect mix of skills and weapons to multiply Bleed's damage output. Completely unable to understand it, the party leader calls hacks. With his last breath, he calls Kaiser a filthy cheating bastard. Pretty ironic coming from a player killer Loki named Bastard Sword. Seeing his leader collapse, the tank shouts his friend's name in pure panic. His expression says everything. He finally understands he picked a fight with the wrong fool, and now he is knee-deep in crap. The plan was supposed to be flawless. Instead, his teammates are the ones lying cold on the dungeon floor. It hits him too late that they were never the hunters. Kaiser was leading them around from the very beginning, pulling their strings like puppets. By the time the tank realizes he needs to run, it is already over. The heavily armored fighters drop like sacks of potatoes after a single clean slash from his dagger. He staggers back to his knees despite the blood loss, but he barely survives a few more seconds before kicking the bucket. With that, our boy eliminates the scheming players along with the elite goblin soldiers. The goblin chief, who has been quietly watching from the sidelines this whole time, suddenly remembers he is also part of this fight. Seeing his most loyal guards collapse, the boss lets out a furious roar. Kaiser exhales once, recalling he still has the enraged fatty left to deal with. Since he is already here, he decides he might as well enjoy himself a little. The boss leaps down from above, trying to flatten him with the weight of 100 Cybertrucks. It has not activated its physical resistance yet, so a clean knee to the face sends the oversized menace tumbling backward. Hurt and embarrassed, it activates selfish defense and reduces all incoming physical damage to nearly nothing. Without hesitating, Kaiser uses his thief skill again and slices at the boss from multiple angles. Just like before, blood bursts from the goblin chief like a hole in a water balloon. The creature spins around with a furious glare, pissed off after watching half its health vanish in a single attack. His eyes meet with Kaiser's, who has the killer stare of a butcher sizing up which animal will be on the barbecue next. The chief's rage vanishes instantly. With a panicked squeal, it turns and runs. For the first time in history, the boss flees from its own fight. Our boy closes the gap using backstab while the goblin glances back, thinking it escaped. But when he swings its double chin back forward, he finds the executioner inches from its juicy neck, ready to make pork cutlets. The goblin chief screams in terror as he boards an express train to hell. The system informs him of his victory, and that he has leveled up too. He even gets the chief's nasty sweaty belt, but is happy since he was looking for one anyway. Our hero thinks that he could have taken a ranked spot here too. However, there wasn't a time limit, so he just drops the topic. It does weigh on him a little, but he then focuses on all the juicy rewards here. Picking up the shield, he realizes that the thugs spent a fortune on their gear. Even the leader's sword was top-tier stuff. Even though the guy lived up to his name, now he cannot harm anyone anymore. Just as he picks up a necklace to inspect, his Eye of Truth ability activates and catches something in the distance. At first he wonders if it is someone using stealth, but the light seems too bright for that. When he walks toward it, the system tells him that he has discovered a hidden dungeon. That catches him completely by surprise. Dropping back into lore mode, dungeons are divided into grades, and among them, the most legendary and rarest are known as hidden dungeons. Even players with explorer classes nearly go bald trying to find them. The entrances are placed in absurd locations, and on top of that, there are some pretty weird special conditions to enter them. Coming back to our boy, he gets shocked by how insane the conditions for this dungeon are. In a dungeon that usually requires a party to clear, he has to discover it while being solo. But then he tells himself that it wouldn't be worth it otherwise. When he sees that the rewards for this hidden dungeon are hero grade, he gets fired up that he will clear it no matter what. One of the veterans of this game, Freed, quoted that entering a hidden dungeon is like resting your head inside a predator's mouth. A lot of players agree with the idea that the moment you lower your guard around a beast, it will snap its jaws shut and crush your head. The hidden dungeon is like a predator in camouflage, waiting for its prey to step into its open mouth. Coming back to our boy, Kaiser walks into the dungeon only to be hit by a debuff giving him tunnel vision. However, his hero trait then activates, dissipating the curse and restoring his 20/20 vision. The rude welcome only makes him more fired up. A goblin in a hood then speaks up, calling him brave for entering his lair without any fear. Getting face to face, Kaiser sees all the nasty undead goblins and spiders and immediately gets creeped out. Seeing his reaction, the shaman goblin gets more confident and starts laughing like a maniac. However, our boy is shocked that he is a named boss. Even though this is a high-level dungeon, a named boss is still leagues above. He then recalls the rewards he got for defeating the dragon and starts drooling over what he will get this time. The goblin then starts monologuing, wondering how the hell the human discovered this place. He can tell Kaiser is not an explorer and even notices that he has multiple different auras mixed into him. It pleasantly surprises our hero that the goblin is smarter than he looks. The shaman then gets serious and declares that Kaiser will not leave this place alive. With that, he unleashes his undead army, but our boy just stands there and fires back that he will teach the monster a lesson. Activating his backstab ability, he warns the shaman that a ranged fighter should always be alert while throwing hands with a melee fighter. He then teleports behind the shaman, but the monster is prepared as he simply yeets one of his undead soldiers at him, causing it to explode. However, the smile on the shaman's face instantly fades when our boy pulls an Itachi and appears behind him again. Seeing the knife in his hands, the shaman realizes that he has been cut. Kaiser taunts him, reminding the goblin that he already told him to stay alert. The goblin necromancer then gets serious as he levitates more of his soldiers and sends them flying toward our boy. Meanwhile, our hero effortlessly dodges the monster missiles, as he can easily tell the direction of the attack and what the piece of trash is planning ahead. At that moment, Kaiser gets driven against a wall. The shaman starts celebrating, declaring that this is the end, and causes more of his undead soldiers to explode. The black shaman clicks its tongue, visibly disappointed it did not get the chance to capture such an interesting test subject in one piece. Jihad blames him for being reckless and arrogant. That smug composure fades quickly when the man it assumed was dead suddenly wraps an arm around it from behind. He doesn't stop there. He leans in and reminds the shaman that it cannot use any more skills. Deciding to enjoy this a bit, he puts the dagger away and starts beating Jihad with his bare hands instead of ending it. One solid punch sends the scrawny shaman flying, its back slamming hard into the wall. The creature groans, likely never having faced this kind of bullying before. Standing over it with a firm and unyielding gaze, Kaiser makes it clear who the real boss in this place is. Jihad clings to what little pride it has left, muttering that it will one day take revenge for this humiliation. Kaiser answers with a clean hook to the liver, knocking that pride right out of it. He follows up with a short barrage of punches until the shaman wheezes and actually asks for a timeout. The ugly creature then has the nerve to lecture him, claiming violence that breaks bones like this should be illegal, so what he is doing is deeply wrong. Kaiser just stares at it, trying to process what kind of script this boss was programmed with. This coward does not match the image of a heroic-grade special dungeon boss he expected. Aside from that earlier corpse explosion that could one-shot top explorers, the Black Goblin Shaman feels underwhelming. While Kaiser is lost in thought for a second, the shaman quietly adjusts its broken bones. Then it slips backward, creating distance and leaving him blinking in surprise. Jihad's confidence returns fast, claiming that retreat was a calculated move to lower his guard. A dark grin spreads across its face as black fog, born from the shaman's special trait, begins to swallow the area around them. Kaiser receives a system warning that the trait temporarily boosts the boss's rank. He is not too concerned. In his mind, a heroic rank loser ranking up is still a loser. That said, he is not about to stand around and let a transformation finish, especially when heroic plus monsters usually require full raid teams to bring down. So he moves in at full speed, aiming to end this before it escalates further. Before the fight, he dumped every last stat point into strength, pushing it past 100. On top of that, the warrior set grants bonus damage against goblin-type monsters, plus an extra boost versus bosses. Jihad Black might be tough, but raw damage like this does not care about durability. He brings the greatsword down in one decisive swing, and the blade cleaves the goblin shaman straight in half. Just like that, the secret dungeon is cleared and recorded in his adventurer's tome. As the first explorer to conquer it, he gets heroic grade rewards. Finally, some proper loot, like the shaman's robe and an orb containing its soul. Then he notices a strange item labeled Trace of a Forgotten Clan, with no grade attached. Even the description is vague, reminding him of the unidentified drop items like the ones back in Demrock. Putting that aside, he moves on to the final reward. At first glance, he assumes the unidentified monster card offers a stat boost or some enchantment. But when he clicks on it, it reveals a heroic grade guardian card that summons the goblin shaman itself to protect the user. Kaiser's excitement dies instantly. He is not thrilled about having an ugly goblin trailing him around. He had something cooler in mind, like the dragon or tiger guardians his former teammates flexed. Still, he decides to test it instead of judging too fast. Instead of Jihad Black the Dark Shaman, what appears is the Jihad Black Pokemon Collector Edition. The little plush version blinks in confusion, staring up at the same human it once tried to kill, except now Kaiser towers over it. Kaiser facepalms at the miniature clown that is supposedly his guardian. The least the developers could have done was make it look intimidating. Baby Black drops to the floor in visible despair, offended by the mere thought of serving a dirty human. Its listed traits aren't that promising either, with Bully the Weak and Opportunist sitting at the top. The Guardian starts off with very low loyalty, which makes the annoying little gremlin feel more like a punishment than a reward. To make it worse, the system even warns him that the tiny traitor will not hesitate to stab him in the back if the opportunity appears. One glance at Jihad's smug little face tells Kaiser he definitely cannot let this thing roam around unsupervised. Our boy slowly steps toward the miniature guardian. Watching the towering human approach with clear intent, the little rascal asks what a filthy human plans to do with someone of his greatness. Kaiser just blinks. The audacity of this ugly Pokemon calling its master filthy is almost impressive. Jihad quickly falls silent, realizing it may have crossed a line. Deciding the brain-dead shaman requires immediate correction, Kaiser introduces it to the true meaning of the word master through a very hands-on training session. Soon, the crisp sounds of intensive education echo across the cave, and Jihad's loyalty points slowly begin to rise, one painful lesson at a time. After that long gaming session, our protagonist finally crawls out of his man cave. He glances out the window, surprised the sun is already setting, and he is starving. Like any dedicated gamer, he heads downstairs to ask his mom if there is anything left for him. Instead, he finds his sister lounging on the couch, casually munching on the last bag of chips. He has an urge to call her a loser, but as a fellow no-life, he chooses peace. Dropping onto the couch beside her, he asks what she is watching. He nearly chokes when she says she also plays Goss. Apparently, it's so trendy everyone plays it now, and she is already level 71. Do-hyun's brain short-circuits at that revelation, because that means she must have been playing for ages. Except not really. She hit that level in 6 months because some friend carried her the entire way. Curious, he asks if it actually takes that long to reach level 70 on your own. Ruthless as ever, she fires back that progress slows down when you occasionally touch grass instead of living in a gaming pod 10 hours a day. Bro cannot decide whether to take it as an insult or a compliment. Right then, the livestream switches to a news segment about the Hero Guild. His sister gushes that it is the #1 guild among players her age, even rivaling Milesal in popularity. That makes zero sense to him since the guild does not even crack the top 10 leaderboards. The 10 out of 10 guildmaster appears on screen. She enlightens him that the Hero Guild's fame has nothing to do with achievements. The guys are just really hot. While she practically drools over Guildmaster Verza, calling it the ultimate guild for girls, Do-hyun squints at the screen. Aside from the guy's basic K-pop e-boy aesthetic, he does not see the hype. His sister insists the man is handsome and cool, 2 words no girl will ever say to her brother. Irritated, Do-hyun thinks that is bold talk coming from a solid 6 whose biggest talent is sitting on the couch all evening. She adds that her guild's YouTube channel is blowing up because of Verza's aura. Do-hyun stares at her confused, so she enlightens him that nearly every guild streams on YouTube to get views. The big ones regularly pull in millions. That completely blows his mind, because that means they are probably raking in some serious cash. She casually confirms that the guy probably earns $1 billion a month just from YouTube. Hearing that, Do-hyun's brain goes completely numb as he calculates how many KFC buckets he could buy with that kind of money. Feeling thoroughly defeated by the pretty boy, he slumps back to his room and logs in again to escape reality. This time he decides to record his gameplay, hoping to get some banger clips for himself. Jihad wakes up too, cheerfully saying good morning to his master. Do-hyun's glare reminds the little goblin of the hands-on education he forgot, and to add proper honorifics when addressing him. Jihad starts sweating, but Do-hyun decides to cut the shaman some slack. He tosses the robe to him so he has something to wear, since he can't put it on himself at the moment anyway. Instead of showing gratitude, the little rascal loses loyalty and starts cooking up plans to stab him to gain freedom. One small reminder of past pain, however, quickly fixes that, and Jihad shows proper gratitude for his master's kindness. He then asks what their game plan is. He tells him they have a lot to get done. They move to another area in the lair, where he brutally slaughters all the goblins. Jihad can't help but feel a little pity for them. After cleaning up, he orders him to try something new. He instructs the shaman to drop all the loot he's carrying and attempt to resurrect the goblins he just slayed. The shaman tosses everything aside and casts a spell that looks way too serious for his goofy little face. Surprisingly, it works, and a red goblin rises from the ground. Jihad repeats it 2 more times and confirms that this is the limit of his army in his current state. Even so, the idea of having an undead army piques his interest, because it makes the shaman far more useful than he expected. Without waiting for permission, the shaman starts ordering his resurrected subjects around, completely ignoring his master. When he asks what they're doing, Jihad gladly explains that he doesn't need to carry all the loot with them around. The little rascal immediately pushing labor work as soon as he unlocked servants gets on his nerves. He tells Jihad that he plans on farming elite monsters once he hits level 2. Jihad surprises him, casually mentioning that he already knows where all the elites gather. Apparently, they are so lazy that they basically camp in one place most of the time. Hearing that, our boy grins wide because he just got a truly terrific idea. After hearing that elite mobs are stupid enough to group up in one place, Kaiser hatched a plan. With the help of Jihad, he traversed the woods and located the ideal hunting ground. They came across a camp of monsters resembling goblins, but a bit more humanoid. Jihad confirmed with his master if this was what they were looking for. A deranged smile crept up Kaiser's face at the sight of the camp. Finding this encampment triggered the sudden quest, Trial of the Warriors. Clearing the quest could net him 100 gold, some skill exp, and 1 intermediate skill draw ticket. If there are gacha tickets involved, you know this man will work his ass off to get them. Without wasting another second from the 48-hour time limit, he charged the encampment, alerting the elite mobs to his presence. There was no need to be all sneaky, he'll just go balls to the wall. To the elite mobs' credit, they didn't falter and immediately raised their weapons. He sidestepped the first attack with perfect timing. Using his angular momentum, Kaiser attacked from above. With his great sword still sheathed, he used his knee to land a devastating blow to the monster's ugly ass face. He broke a lot of teeth and disfigured the poor mob's nose. Without looking back, Kaiser's attention turned to the rest of the camp. This time, he seamlessly summoned his looted dagger out of his inventory. With a single use of Vital Thrust, he ripped apart the vitals of 3 monsters in quick succession. The attacks that didn't deal fatal damage left a nasty bleeding status ailment. In just a few seconds, he reduced the elite mob camp to just a single desperate monster. Testing his stacked strength against the monster's blade skill, Kaiser blocked with his dagger. The beast was taken aback when a full swing was thwarted by an undersized weapon. Left wide open, he gave that monster a firm kick to the stomach, knocking the air out of the poor guy's lungs. To cap off his sudden ambush, he reached for his main weapon. He brandished the red great sword to the limit and made the beast roar its final war cry. Kaiser sliced that poor son of a gun in half without a shred of resistance. From his initial charge to the final kill, he only took a few seconds to stain the camp with blood and finish the job. Jihad watched from a safe distance as his insane master mowed down an elite mob troop without breaking a sweat. He felt how fearsome this man could be back in the western forest. He cannot be called human. It would be far more fitting to call this man a demon, the devil incarnate himself. Kaiser planted his blade to the ground and extended his senses outwards. Now that the warriors are out of the picture, the next threat should show up any minute now. As expected, the hidden field boss, Goblin Great Warrior Karuk, came sprinting out of the woods. His sudden quest automatically chained into an elevated one, the Trial of the Great Warrior. Karuk is a named elite hidden field boss, a great warrior with body enhancement and berserker skills. A normal player would have pissed their pants in fear of this mob, but all Kaiser could see was a walking loot bag. He grabbed his great sword and charged forward to meet the hidden field boss midway through. Jihad tried to warn him that soloing a field boss of this caliber might be a bit too much, but his master didn't listen. Karuk's icy war axe was imbued with a ruthless strike. The moment they touch blades, his great sword shall shatter. Taking this piece of information into account, Kaiser avoided a direct clash with the frightening display of sword mastery. Karuk was left dazed and confused because he didn't get to finish the fight in one blow. Similarly, Jihad was baffled. A split second before the war axe could shatter his weapon, Kaiser played with his great sword's angle and avoided losing precious equipment. He lifted his head and gave the oversized goblin a taunting glare. It was super effective. Karuk lifted the axe above his head, eager for round 2. In a much closer range, Kaiser swiped away all the momentum from the goblin's frigid weapon. They continued brawling it out without using any fancy footwork and movement. They just stood still and bombarded each other blow for blow. Jihad had never seen anything like it in his 100-year existence. Kaiser wasn't getting diced up or blown away due to his immaculate use of parry. He was effortlessly dissolving any attack before they could cause harm with pure skill. As you might know, parrying an attack is a powerful but risky play. If the timing is just a little off, it will fail. It's one of the very few defensive skills that a swordsman can utilize. Most players use it to suppress predictable normal mobs. If the conditions are right and the user is skilled enough, a simple parry can neutralize legendary skills. Due to its abysmal success rate and complexity to use, almost no swordsman uses it in real combat. Kaiser luckily scored this high-risk, high-reward skill out of a low-tier gacha draw. Once the cooldown for Ruthless Strike was up, Karuk delivered another one of his game-changing swings. This time, Kaiser let the field boss hit nothing but dirt and instantaneously teleported behind the dumb goblin. By the time Karuk sensed him coming for his flank, Kaiser was already celebrating with a shit-eating grin. Jihad watched as his master easily cleaved down a boss that should have taken multiple players to hunt successfully. In a feat of absolute destruction, a full crescent swing beheaded the large brute. The hidden field boss, Goblin Great Warrior Karuk, had been eliminated. Kaiser completed the trial of the Great Warrior, and the achievement was recorded in his adventure log. He was rewarded with 200 gold, a large amount of exp, and 2 intermediate skill draw tickets. Kaiser couldn't give a rat's ass about the other rewards. His eyes were immediately drawn to the gacha tickets. He celebrated like a caveman who had just discovered fire. Every time he witnessed his master doing that caveman dance, Jihad couldn't help but feel embarrassed. When this man is in the middle of a fight, he acts like a demon slaughtering everything in his path. But the moment it's time for his card draw, he turns into the dumbest looking bastard in the world. Such is the life of a gambling addict. He immediately pulled up the tickets and clicked the use button in record time. Dopamine flooded his mind as a myriad of possible skills stretched before his eyes. The first card gave him a rare martial arts skill, the Ascending Dragon Kick. The second one pulled a rare skill from the buffer class called Striking. This buffer skill pull was huge. Striking is a core skill for buffers. It has a 40-second duration and a 40-second cooldown, giving it 100% uptime of plus 40 physical attack. It practically turns a normal sword of the same level into something that hits like a great sword without drawbacks. He really hit the jackpot today. This skill suited him so perfectly that he could cry. A DPS that can buff himself is a wet dream for solo play. The Ascending Dragon Kick was just the icing on the cake. He always wanted to gain the skill due to the simple fact that it looks cool as fuck. In addition, the hidden field boss dropped Karuk's red leather top and red leather bottom, both hero-grade garments. He even gained Karuk's rare plus red and blue leather shoulders, and Karuk's essence ring, a hero-grade accessory. Kaiser can finally graduate out of his damn goblin set for a substantial upgrade. He equipped Karuk's full reed and blue Great Warrior set. The set options include a 10% increase in slam attack range, a 6.5% increase in melee damage, and a plus 4 on all stats. Wearing a two-tone colored full set was definitely an aesthetic upgrade. Jihad gave his master a compliment, and admitted that Kaiser can be really scary at times. He took his servant's fear as yet another compliment. Sometimes he scares himself with how goated he is. Seeing Kaiser basked in his egotistic glory, Jihad forgoes any possibility of having a real conversation with the man. His gloating was interrupted by a notification that the little goblin's loyalty had decreased by 1 point. Knowing that the little bastard just insulted him subconsciously, Kaiser flashed his bastard sword at the little fella and reminded Jihad not to step out of line if he wanted to continue living. Thankfully, fear was a highly effective booster of loyalty when it comes to Jihad. With his goal accomplished, there's nothing more to do in this depressing forest. It's time to dip. Even though he just killed a hidden field boss, Mr. Rank 1 was still itching to hunt another sack of loot. He already scored 1, might as well keep the kill streak going. But to move to the next city, Kaiser must pass the continent's trial first. Coincidentally, the trial is a field boss hunt to defeat Spider Queen Eliza and reach level 24. The so-called Spider Queen spawns in the Western Forest. Like all other field bosses, the entrance to her lair is constantly filled with players trying their luck. Currently, there's a decent number of people gathered for the next spawn in about 10 minutes. They've heard that the last spawn point was the Eastern Web. There's a chance that the Queen will repeat the same pattern. There's no telling for sure. The boss could appear from the west or the north for all anyone knows. Just in time before the fight for the Queen, Kaiser reached the web-covered lair. He asked his bald-ass goblin if he knew the specific spawn point. Jihad called the Spider Queen a new generation monster, so he doesn't really know her that well. Kaiser was a bit disappointed. He thought the little guy knew the forest in and out. Ultimately, Kaiser was stuck in the same guessing game as the other players. Wherever she might spawn, he could always just use backstab to close the gap. Thankfully, his Slayer trait activated and gave him an unfair advantage over everyone else. The trait actually revealed the Spider Queen Eliza's spawn point in his mind. It was a welcome surprise, but also a little odd. As far as he knows, he didn't get the Slayer title for Spider-type monsters. Could it be that Slayer applies to bosses he has yet to kill? If it activates for any type of boss monster, then the trait must be ridiculously broken. He'll need to test it out a few more times in the future. The only thing that matters right now is the field boss he's about to butcher. At the moment, his kit is tailor-made to monopolize as many field bosses as possible. Once the 10-minute spawn timer was out, Kaiser vanished, leaving the rest of the players in the dust. He transported himself directly behind the hairy dump truck of Spider Queen Eliza. With no other player in the vicinity of the dark underground cave, he'll have plenty of space to let loose. The combination of his Slayer trait and backstab was simply too effective. Jihad was transported alongside him. The little fella continues to be astounded by all his master's tricks. Standing before Spider Queen Eliza, who had just been alerted to his presence, he was surprised by the field boss's sheer size. The massive spider roared her name like a Pokemon as she charged at the lone player. Feeling out his opponent, Kaiser dashed back out of her way. Once he created enough separation, he used backstab and vanished into thin air. The Spider Queen was a bit too late in turning around to defend herself. Kaiser just found the perfect practice partner for his new Ascending Dragon Kick. The damage was boosted by his set option effect, dealing 6% more damage. More importantly, he was right. It simply looked cool as hell. He dealt an egregious amount of damage that made all of Eliza's eyeballs cry in pain. Get this man a blindfold and call him Lee Sin. That single kick dealt damage equivalent to an ultimate skill. It sent the Spider Queen barreling through the cave, falling face first into the dirt. Refusing to let up, Kaiser drew his bastard sword and dashed forth. Eliza had sustained quite a bit of damage, and she was finding it hard to recover. Immobile due to the initial injury, she just stood there as Kaiser carved her up into pieces like fresh meat. Without a kill notification, he did not stop the one-sided assault, ramping his speed up to another level. Kaiser used his striking skill to buff his attack power by a ridiculous amount. The increase in strength was palpable. His presence felt heavier and more threatening. Every trace of the Spider Queen's wrath was converted into fear as she felt a familiar energy rising within her attacker. Kaiser summoned an even bigger and fiercer dragon construct with the activation of the ascending dragon kick. He slammed his foot against her head to turn the giant monster's brain into mush. Eliza threw up some nasty bile as all hopes of survival evaporated. The force behind his foot shook the ground and the cavern system as a whole. Jihad hid behind a rock from a safe distance. He felt sorry for the monsters his master met today. On her last legs, the Spider Queen looked up at Kaiser with pleading eyes. He's starting to grow annoyed by the spider's repeated calling of the name Eliza like a broken record. Now that the fight is basically over, his sadistic tendencies took over. He put away his weapons to do some bare fisting. She might not understand human tongue, but the Spider Queen could sense that she's in for a world of hurt. Jihad listened to the sound of bare fists smashing down the monster's flesh. His master's cruelty gave him PTSD. He was not a stranger to being beaten by those hands. Kaiser's hands fired up a dozen punches per second, steadily whittling down the spider's HP. Hearing her continuously scream the name Eliza, Jihad's memory was jogged. He had heard of that name before. Upon realization, he ran to the battlefield and nervously asked his master to stop the beating. He risked being subjected to Kaiser's wrath, and begged the man to halt the punches. Kaiser wasn't a heartless monster. He heeded his goblin's call and stepped aside. Jihad ran up to Eliza with teary eyes as he tried to get her to open her eyes. With barely enough strength to stare at the little goblin, the Spider Queen had a hard time recognizing Jihad. He pulled down his cloak to show her his bald-ass head to make her remember. As soon as she recognized who was in front of her, tears of relief washed over the giant spider. These two bosses have a history that dates back to 150 years ago. She was just a cute and tiny spiderling back then. She always had the habit of speaking her name, Liza. Jihad had never seen a species of spider that fit her description before. On a whim, he asked the spider to tag along on his journeys, and she readily consented. Liza had been there for him through countless nights of study and experimentation. Jihad found Liza's sound kind of plain, so he added an E to the start of her name. Eliza was very happy to receive a new moniker from her new goblin friend. Initially, she struggled to pronounce her full name, but Jihad chose to keep calling her Eliza from then on. One day, he had to leave to go somewhere unsuitable for a defenseless little spider. The place was dangerous for him, let alone for his little friend. Before leaving, he promised to be back in no time. She patiently waited for her friend, never moving from where he left her. Eliza stood still for God knows how long, but her friend never returned. The days faded and the moon waned. From sunrise to moonfall she persevered. A year passed and she waited. A decade went by and she waited. 100 years flew by and she still waited. Eliza kept waiting for the day that would never come, a promise that would never be fulfilled. The cabin she had called home eventually grew weary from the passage of time. It eventually collapsed, and little Eliza was forced to head towards the western forest. After more than a century of doing nothing but waiting, she steeled her resolve and traveled to the place where she first met her friend. She kept on repeating the name Jihad gave her so she would never forget. 150 years later, Jihad and little Eliza have finally reunited. Their sizes have reversed, but the feelings and memories remain. After hearing out the goblin's backstory, all Kaiser heard was that Jihad was a piece of shit who abandoned Eliza. The bald-ass goblin lifted his head to look at his master momentarily, then continued crying for his long-lost friend. This reunion raises a simple question. Jihad was gone not for 1 or 2 years. He was out of the picture for a century and a half. Why was that? Jihad truly cannot say the reason. It is currently beyond his ability to share. Kaiser wasn't very pleased with his vague response. Still, all the little goblin could do was apologize for not being able to divulge some secrets. Seeing Jihad's sincerity, the master didn't push him any further. Now that he had heard the depressing story of the Spider Queen, Kaiser didn't know how to proceed. His graduation quest was to kill Eliza. He can't just skip a mandatory mission and stall his progress. Thankfully, it sounds like Eliza has a way to help. She animatedly relayed what she knew to Jihad in monster tongue. Upon hearing her plan, Jihad refused to entertain the idea. Kaiser wanted to know what the two were talking about, and Jihad reluctantly translated. In essence, the Spider Queen told Jihad that the humans should just